Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Backcourt Press with your host, Hunter Metnick. Before I get started, follow me on Instagram at Backcourt Press, follow me on Twitter at Backcourt Press _, and subscribe to my YouTube channel that you are watching this on. And along with that, give this video a like, it'd mean a lot to me, and comment down below your thoughts on all the different things that I will be talking about in today's video. Not that many games going on last night on the 16th, but I'm going to talk to you about them and the ones that I watched and the ones that I didn't watch because I got the box score pulled up right here. And most of the time, you can pretty much get a good observation of what happened during the game through the box score. But I do have my notes, so I will be reading off that too. And once again, subscribe to the channel. It means a lot to me. Let's get right into it. So the first game I'll talk about, I watched 4 of the games tonight. Unfortunately, I did not get to Blazers versus Thunder until the end when Damian Lillard played incredible. And I did not watch any of the Raptors-Bucks game, but I won't be talking about the Raptors-Bucks game, although the Raptors came out with a win and won every single quarter, although except for the first 2 because they tied, but I'll consider that a win since they came out of the game with the win. But I'm going to start with the first game of the day, which was the Nuggets facing the Celtics, a must-win game for the Celtics after going on a really big losing streak, and they got the job done. The only notes that I have for this game was during I believe it was the third quarter or the fourth quarter, when the Celtics were up a little bit going into the fourth, the Denver Nuggets started using Jokic as almost a spot up shooter. And he shot 3 straight spot up threes. And it was very weird to me how Jokic is known for his playmaking, finished this game with only 5 assists. Yes, Campazzo, I love the way, I just like him as a basketball player, played the most minutes for this team. So I think that's fantastic. But Jokic only had 5 assists. You know, he's been one of the best passing big men we've ever honestly seen. And he shot the ball 23 times, 5 threes. And I think 3 of those were straight in a row, as I have written down. And one of them, I think his foot was on the line, so it counted as a 2. Although he finished with 43 points, when he is this team's main scorer, he's not playing his game, in my personal opinion. He is a post guy, playmaker. He'll get his rebounds and he'll put up his buckets in the post or a spot up shooter or in the paint. When you ask him to be your number one offensive threat, I don't think the Nuggets are as good of a team as they would be as he's the main playmaker. Jamal Murray's never been a great playmaker throughout his career, and I think everyone knows that he's a pure scorer. Yeah, he had actually a pretty good game, shooting 9 for 16 from the field and finished with 25 points. But with Jokic putting up 43, it just doesn't seem like they'd win the game with the way that they played the game of basketball. Michael Porter Jr., although finishing with 7 rebounds and 3 assists, he shot 0 for 8 from the field and 0 for 5 for 3. He makes a couple of those shots. Maybe they're back in this game, but you never know. JaMychal Green also went 1 for 7, so that's not really good. And it was good to see RJ Hampton getting valuable minutes for this team, especially right in the first quarter that Mike Malone brought him out, which I really enjoyed watching. But if you're going to use Jokic as a spot-up shooter, I don't think that this team is using him to the best of his ability, and this team's not going to win when that kind of stuff happens. The next note I have about this game is about the Celtics, and just saying that Celtics ball movement looked very good tonight. Robert Williams came in and played very good, valuable minutes for them on the defensive side, especially with 5 steals. I didn't even know that, but you could just see while watching, he had such a big defensive presence. And the starting 5 looked solid today. Their big 3 in Kemba, Tatum, and Brown all played a good game, and they came out with a win. So I think that kind of shows you that they need those 3 players to come out and have good games if this team's going to win. Although Jeff Teague's now getting DNP coaches' decisions, a player that I think everyone expected to be the backup point guard. Now Peyton Pritchard's come in and had 8 points and 7 assists on good efficiency. So I don't know what Brad Stevens is going to do come playoff time with this team. If they should make the playoffs, as long as they do. Semi Ojeleye is turning into a spot-up shooter for this team, and I don't like it. He's such a big guy, and I expect him to take way more paint shots than he does. But he shot 7 3-pointers and 9 shots. Only 2 twos is not enough for starting power forward in Semi Ojeleye. Tristan Thompson held his own tonight. You could see that he obviously not with Jokic playing at 43, but Jokic did most of that on the perimeter. So a little props to Tristan Thompson for his inside presence on Jokic. And they came out the win, so I'm not going to say anything bad about the Celtics, even though this is their first win in what feels like forever. The next game I really watched is Pelicans-Grizzlies, and I cannot believe that Zion Williamson still isn't being talked about. He had 31 points on just 16 shots, and it seemed like he should have taken 25 shots for how dominant he was. There was no one on that Grizzlies team that could stop him. I believe they put Kyle Anderson on him, Brandon Clark on him, Gorgie Deng, Xavier Tillman. None of it worked. Zion's just too much of a beast in the paint. Finishing with 31 on 16 shots is incredible. 7 rebounds, also 6 assists, all out of the post. It seemed like he'd drive in, kick it out, through the post, backdoor cut to a guy like Josh Hart, who's been playing incredible minutes for this team as a power forward, which I find very interesting. He had the highest plus minus on the team at a plus 30, and so did Lonzo Ball with a plus 30, and Eric Bledsoe only a plus 3 when you win by 31 points. Get him off this team. I will keep saying it. The fact that Nickeil Alexander-Walker only got 3 minutes this game is I don't know what this I still don't understand that. You got away with a win. Congratulations. Eric Bledsoe still had a bad game. Trade him away. But this is no shot at the Memphis Grizzlies. They didn't even look like they had a bad game tonight. They just couldn't defend anything. But Ja Morant, 28 points, 8 assists, 7 rebounds. He's fantastic on good efficiency. Ja Morant was just electric tonight, and he's like that every night. Kyle Anderson keeping up his hot streak and putting up nearly 20 points tonight. Dillon Brooks shooting 50%, having almost 20 points. But you could really see the difference in the starting lineup versus the bench. Xavier Tillman came in, played 20 minutes for this team, and had a plus minus of negative 27. John Contra got extremely valuable minutes down the stretch, and he did not perform well. He had one nice defensive stop I can remember off the top of my head on Zion, but besides that, they put him on Zion for a little bit, and it just did not work at all. So when Triple J comes back, I'm expecting them to slide a guy like Grayson Allen back to the bench and start Kyle Anderson at the 3, even though I don't think he has the foot speed to defend threes. It's probably what would be best on the offensive side. So I'm not going to count out Memphis just yet, but the Pelicans looked like the way better team tonight. As I said, I did not watch it all, the Raptors Bucks, but the only note I have is that there are only 3 Eastern Conference teams that have a record over 500, which is crazy stat if you think about it, because there's 8 teams making the playoffs, and I bet you, I'll look at it right now, out west, there's probably teams not making the playoffs who are right around 500. The Grizzlies, as I just said, they're 1 game under 500, and they're the 9th seed in the playoffs. When sitting at 11 and 12, they would possibly be considered for the 4 or 5 or 6 seed right now in the East, which is crazy to me to think about, because the Heat, we can see they've been struggling. They have not been playing good, and yet they're the 10th seed. This team's probably going to sneak into a playoffs with an under 500 record if they can click. This is giving teams like the Chicago Bulls a chance to make the playoffs this season, because no one in the East is playing well. If we're talking over 500, since the Celtics won and didn't lose that game, then we got 4 teams, and then the Pacers are sitting at 14 and 14. The Knicks are 1 game under 500 and the 6th seed. It is crazy to me how bad there's a top 4 in the Celtics, Bucks, Nets, and Sixers. We've known this. And then under that, there really isn't a guaranteed spot for the playoffs, in my opinion. And maybe the Celtics won't even make the playoffs. So very interesting. The Wizards have been making a run. Maybe they could make a push for the playoffs. I'd love to see Russell Westbrook and Bradley Beal make it, but I have nothing to say about this game. The Raptors just walked over the Bucks, and props to them, because Giannis has been playing at an MVP level in the past couple games, and they found a way to stop him. I think that just gives credit to Nick Nurse for the Raptors winning this game. And Fred VanVleet was on. You're probably not going to lose if Fred VanVleet's on. Next game I watched a little bit of, I watched the Anthony Edwards highlights on the Timberwolves-Lakers game. You could see the joy in his face when he hit that 3 over LeBron. They gave him the starting spot. He shot the most shots on the team, and they barely lost, which you'd expect them to lose this game probably by more than just 8. I apologize for my voice. I do have strep throat right now. It sucks. Bear with me a little bit. Malik Beasley finally had a bad game this season, shooting 4 for 15. It doesn't matter to me. Jordan McLaughlin, the short guy, the 5'9" point guard, came in, played terrible minutes for this team. I know he had 13 points and 4 assists, but when he was on the court, the team looked way worse than when Ricky Rubio was on the court, and it was just visible to see that. So the whole starting lineup had plus minuses, except for a couple of them had 0. And then the entire bench had minuses. So I think that will tell you something about this Timberwolves team. And D'Angelo Russell didn't even play because he's out for 4 to 6 weeks, which sucks. Favorite player in the league, can't watch him play. That sucks. And also, Talen Horton-Tucker is not really getting minutes anymore, and Wesley Matthews is getting the minutes over him. Okay, I really was hoping this team would experiment more with Talen Horton-Tucker, and they're not, but that's okay. Dennis Schroeder had a very good game. I feel like he's been so under the radar because he's this like the 3rd, 4th option on this team, maybe some nights 5th option on this team. He just doesn't get talked about, and he's having a good impact. And this team is still 22-7, best team in the NBA right now, and I'm not questioning it. And then Damian Lillard went off, as it makes sense because, he's been such a fantastic player this season. It has to be him or Luka. And I said Luka in my last video, and I'm probably going to say Dame right now because of how clutch he's been and how this team's been performing now. Because he had 12 for 25, 31 points, 10 assists, hitting the dagger three over Lou Dort. I think I'm going to make a whole video on Lou Dort. I kind of want to make like a documentary on where he came from and all this crazy, like a Lou Dort conversation, because I love him. I think his story is fantastic, and I want everyone to know about him. So I'm not going to talk about him that much. His defensive presence tonight was fantastic, led the team in scoring. You love to see that from your best defensive player to lead your team in scoring as well. I think that is fantastic. Although the Thunder probably wouldn't have won this game, Damian Lillard made sure that the Blazers did not lose this game, because he hit that dagger three over Lou Dort, who had a fantastic defensive game the entire thing. And better offense is just more impressive than better defense. And you could see it tonight when Damian Lillard went up against Lou Dort. It was incredible. Next game, and the final game that happened tonight, that my dad had some DraftKings money on the line, and he had a lineup, and we were not winning any money, I believe, going into the Nets Suns game. And we had James Harden left, and we came out winning like $50, or my dad came out winning like $50 after betting like 7 or something, just because of how incredible James Harden played. And I loved seeing James Harden go up against Chris Paul and both of them having a good game. That was pretty cool to me. But the Brooklyn Nets should not have won this game. Let's be honest. The Suns were up by 20 at one point in this game, and then James Harden just went to town and went James Harden mode. He looked like James Harden on the Rockets again, where he could just take over the game at any moment. And the fact that he did this, and they beat this Phoenix Suns team who had been on a 7-game win streak and have just looked fantastic over this past week, with Tyler Johnson in the starting lineup, who had a fantastic game. No disrespect to Tyler Johnson, but he's not a starting Cowboy player on this team. But James Harden made him look like a starting Cowboy player, which is just incredible to me. DeAndre Jordan got the starting not bid again, and to me, it looked like he played okay. DeAndre Ayton is a way better player than DeAndre Jordan. I don't think anyone disagrees with that, and that's why DeAndre Ayton had a pretty solid game against him. But shout out DeAndre Jordan for playing 28 minutes and having a solid game and not letting up too bad of a game from DeAndre Ayton. And DeAndre Jordan the other night had a big game against Miles Turner, but DeAndre Ayton's fantastic, and that just tells me DeAndre Jordan's very, very good. Jeff Green came off the bench, 18 points on 50% shooting. He's been such a great pickup. And this team just picked up Andre Roberson, did not play tonight. And I believe Iman Shumpert just signed with this team as well. Very interesting stuff to me. But this Nets team, I really want to talk about how good the Suns looked this game, and just how great Devin Booker had been playing, and Jay Crowder is a great pickup for this team. Bringing Cam Johnson off the bench looks good. Next thing you know, they blow it in the fourth quarter, and James Harden just goes James Harden mode and shows why he's a top 5 shooting guard of all time, in my personal opinion. That's really all I have for about the games. The last thing is, I saw that Quinn Snyder got the nod for the Western All-Star Game coach, and I completely agree with that. I want to know who you guys think it would be if it wasn't Quinn Snyder. So comment that down below if you guys got to the end of the video. But I think it's well deserving for that team to be sitting at the top of the West still at a record of 23-5. It's so funny how we talk so highly of this Utah Jazz team, and yet the Clippers and Lakers are not even 3 games behind at this point in the season. It just tells me something's bound to happen to this Utah Jazz team eventually. And my Warriors sitting at the 8 seed. Hopefully they can make the playoffs, especially with the Spurs right now having these COVID issues. I'm very, very worried about what's going to happen with that. I believe they postponed 4 of their games, and it sucks to see that, because the Spurs team was one of my favorite teams to watch in so far this season. But it's unfortunate, but it was bound to happen eventually with some COVID stuff. That's all I got for this video. Thank you guys for watching. It's been Backcourt Press. Make sure to subscribe, like, and comment, and peace.